functions, where some things are, so that as we work with our next project, you'll have some basic understanding of this Adobe Illustrator drawing app. You can click on the custom size button, and we're going to set this to be in inches because we're used to considering and talking about inches. We're going to set this to 10 inches by 10 inches square. All right. It doesn't make any difference on the other settings at this point, other than up here. Let's go ahead and title it something. We could call it, layered project, whatever you want to call it that makes sense to you. Okay, and I'm going to create the file. So here's our working space. On the left, what is highlighted right now is the selection tool. So once you draw things, you can select them and do things to them. Fourth down is the pencil tool. And the pencil tool is what we're primarily going to be drawing with. It allows you to put down paths of lines that are connected by what we call anchor points. So all these little circles are anchor points, all right? And that's going to help us draw things. The cool thing about that is that the second tool from the top, where the little arrow is pointing to an anchor tool, that allows me to be able to click on one of those anchors, move it around, and I can adjust the handles. The handles determine the kind of curve you wish or want to have, which is kind of cool. So we can adjust or move things. If you click on them to select them, you can see how they turn dark or turn blue. So that allows me to be able to adapt anything about them, from their curvy handles to the actual placement of the anchor point. So this tool is called the direct selection tool because it directly selects one part of this whole drawing. Okay. When I click back on my selection tool, it now selects the whole line that I drew, which is kind of nice, right? So that allows me to move it around with my finger or with an Apple Pencil, so I can place things differently. If I grab the little circle at the top, come on, buddy, come back to me. If I grab the little circle at the top that's sticking off of this bounding box, little circle at the top, I'm able to kind of rotate and turn this however I need it to be. Okay. I can make and squeeze in on any side of this object if I want to change the sides of it and its dimensions. We'll look at some other features here just a little bit, but I wanted to kind of at least show you selecting an object. Okay. Now to deselect, I tap somewhere off of my drawing space. All right, so we had our selection tool, we had our pencil for drawing, and we had our direct selection for moving individual anchors and points around. Okay, so those are some of the tools we're going to use. I'm going to move down a little bit further to the shape tool. This obviously shows a rectangle right now, but there's a little triangle in the bottom corner here, and that means there are more shapes underneath. So I tap it a second time and those open up. And you've got some basic functions like I can create an ellipse if I drag my finger. If I hold my finger on the circle down here in the bottom corner, the bottom left, it'll make sure that my circle stays constrained and makes it perfect, right? If I let go, it can go back to any old oval or ellipse that it wants. But if I want it to be perfect, I hold my finger on that and it becomes a perfect circle, which is quite nice. All right. Anything that is selected can be deleted immediately by the little trash can underneath of it. And if you're like, oh crud, use your little back arrow at the top of the instruction information across this top bar, action bar, and it will do your reverse or back up. So it's there. Cool. Currently, this shape down here shows that it has a white fill and a black outline, or what we call a stroke line. Now, I can come back and click on this solid circle, and I could tap inside this is called a color picker. I could choose any color I want to going around this color wheel. Get it? Color wheel. Right? So I can click any color I want, and I can go from its purest in this corner to its shades, now that we know about shades. I can go left, and we get its tints. I can go diagonal, and we get its tones. Look at that. It's like we know stuff about art. So there's my pure, my shade, my tints, and my tones, right? So I can choose something. You don't have to have something always filled. Sometimes you might go down here to the bottom to the little no-show symbol, right, and choose it. But you can totally choose an idea for a color. You can change sliders if you want to mix colors down here, or if you just want to go to different ones and find what you want up there. Cool? So let me kind of hit on this red-orange there a little bit. All right, we'll call it quits. Same thing happens with your outline stroke. You can have it any color you want. You can come along and choose the color picker, whatever you want, or you don't have to have an outline stroke at all. Okay, so that's up to you. So the color picker allows you to be able to change those kinds of things. All right, I'm going to tap and deselect here. And let me draw one more shape. I'm going to draw a square here, or a rectangle, right? Okay, now it's filling with the previous color because those colors are still set over here. So I'm going to tap on this. Let's make it something different so that we can see it a little bit easier between the two of them. And right now the rectangle is sitting on top of the circle, correct? So there is an icon here, stacking order, where these little papers are on top of each other. So if I click on that and drag, look how that just went behind the circle. Crazy, okay? I'm going to deselect for a moment. Now this little guy, I'm going to move him out of the way. So you can see that this shape is behind this one, right? Well, I can change that back if I want to. I'll click on this, and I can rearrange it to go back into front. Or I can go in the back, or I can go in the front, or I can go in the back. So you can alternate and place objects wherever you'd like them to be, okay? The second thing that you can do, which we may not have a use for yet, but I just wanted to let you know about it, is you can click this little button and it will change the opacity of an object. Looky there, we can see through it, okay? For our purposes, we're really looking at outlines of shapes to draw and to cut. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. Let me close this out, and I'm going to delete that guy. I'm going to come over here and delete that one. Okay, so now let's talk about our objects challenge. We want to bring pictures into here and kind of create a template for us to draw on top of. So here's what we want to do. I'm going to click on the picture icon over here, and I want to bring in a photo from my camera roll. Let me get to my cameras. Nope, go back this way. There we go. So I have, I'm going to choose this guy here. Okay. So, of course, I'm picking something from Star Wars. Duh, right? So I'm going to enlarge this picture because what I really want is this cannon gun. Okay, so I'm going to enlarge this cannon. And I want to draw it and maybe some of the land for a layer in my landscape. All right, so now that I have this picture, this little icon over here to the right with the two pieces of paper is the layers, okay? See that this is the only picture on a layer. I'm going to highlight this, and what I want to do is I'm going to use my little transparency, and I want to lighten this picture just a little bit so that when I draw over the top, I'll be able to see it a little bit better. So now I'm going to lock this layer. See my little lock icon, unlock, lock, even tells you at the top there if it's locked, okay? it won't let us draw on this layer. Looky there, okay? Because we don't want to deface the picture. We want to draw an outline of a landscape section on a new layer. So there's a little plus sign here. I click the plus sign. I'm going to name this the Canon layer. So I can double click on the word layer 2, and I'm going to go cut Canon layer. Okay. Now I'm going to draw on top of this. So I'm going to zoom in. Okay, a little bit more here. I'm going to tap the little layers icon again. It opens and it closes when you tap it. All right. And I'm going to start to use my pencil tool to go around my object that I want to draw. So I want to draw this Canon here. Oops, but what I've got going right now, silly Miss Martin, I still have white but no outline. So I'm going to go back and I want to flip. I don't want any fill, but I would like to have, let's make it something bright that I can see. I'm going to make it a red outline so I can see it easily off of this white background. So I'm now drawing with a single pencil tool. I'm going super slow. I'm going to come around and I'm outlining this because this is really going to be a silhouette when I get done, because this is going to get cut out by the laser cutter. See how slow I'm going? The laser cutter is going to cut this. And all I need is its outermost outline. And then I'm going to run into some of the ground. So I might take and just meander a little bit with some ground because I want this to be on some snow cascade kind of a thing. All right. I can then come back over here and I can turn off my photo. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to turn off the photo. Looky there, the little eyeball turns it off, right? I'm going to come back and close that. And I'm now going to start over. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to come over here and come straight down. Straight over. Straight up. Until I want this to kind of maybe meander and close. Looky there. Okay, now, it's not perfect and pretty. It's pretty darn close, looking nice. But what I want to do is I want to clean some areas up a little bit. For example, see how this little spot over here is going beyond my paper space. The paper space shows us the end of our 10 by 10 space. So I need to make sure that this little anchor point moves so he is in the paper space area. There we go. So that adjusted some of this. So I need to move my handles so that they're nice and straight. There we go. Oops, I didn't wait for it to turn blue. There we go. Come on, buddy. Move that over. Okay. So that's all moved over nice. Everything else looks pretty good. So this ideally could be, there is a solid layer that the computer is going to print out for me for my landscape, right? I can paint it however I want. I could paint it a solid color as it goes back, whatever my scene requires. That image is done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this little eyeball off and I'm going to add a new picture. Now see, I want my, can't place the file. I need to make a new layer, Miss Martin. There we go. Place a new picture. There we go. So now I know I want to have an AT-AT walker somewhere in there. Okay. I might want to make him a little bit bigger. So again, I'm just looking at the size of my AT-AT walker and how big I might want to draw him. I can move this over. Okay, so now I want to make this a little bit lighter, right? So what I draw, I can see over it better. Again, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to lock this. Oops, I didn't mean to turn it off. Lock it. I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to enlarge it on here. I'm going to start by, pick another color here. I'm going to start by drawing around it. So I'm going to flip this back to just being an outline only. And now I start to draw with my pencil tool. Going slow. Okay. So I work my way around. Oh, it skipped a little spot. I'll have to so let me go back a little bit. It skipped. Pink. All right. Pick up there. There we go. So I work my way around, okay? So I'm going to speed this up a little bit and go, okay, see, I've mixed him up and I've got him back. Then I could fill him in. And see, he's filled in. He would be able to be seen as a layer on top of this one, right? So I'm going to move this guy out of the way. So I would have my object on top of this layer. So one layer would be on the other layer. So what we want to have, I know that looks like a really sad looking fingers or a hand in it. So this layer would float on top of another layer, on top of another layer. So we want to draw our two layers in here that we definitely want to have that sit inside of our canvas. And we're going to use that pencil tool to do it. Slowly, we can use the direct selection tool to move little anchor points around. Because keep in mind, most of our stuff is going to be silhouettes, right? To kind of give that feeling of foreground, middle ground, a little further back middle ground, and then the back of our canvas. So the objects that are up really, really close are going to be super dark, okay? So let me kind of go back here to this. Here was my drawing that I kind of had done. Keeping in mind that this top layer here is one in which you are going to, you're going to draw it on a different size dimension document. The only thing that you're going to have to draw right now, let me close that off. The only things that you all are going to be drawing is layer 2 and layer 3 of your entire project. So here I had, you can see my AT-AT walker and you can see my cannon, and those two things are going to get printed out separately on the laser cutter. The last thing that goes on top, the thing that is closest to you, that's going to be done on a 12 by 12 document because it needs to fit the outside of our frame. Hope this helps with just some basic tool features to help us do the project.